Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Kirsty, and this is our podcast, Love Needs No Words.
Hello, hope you're all doing well. If you're new here, welcome. If you're looking for a place to hear Sen mums having a chat and a moan, you're in the right place. So how are you, Kirst? Last time we chatted, it was Max's birthday and you had family coming over. How was that?
Yeah, do you know what, actually? It was really nice. So I think last time we were talking on the podcast, he'd had quite an overwhelming day. Wednesday was his actual birthday. But as the week kind of went on and he finished nursery on Thursday, and we had a nice chilled day on Friday and met a few friends at the zoo, which he loved. And then we went over to see one of his friends who we know from NCT, who he absolutely loves. We had some food with them in the evening, and then we had quite a nice calm weekend, really. My parents-in-law came and stayed, and they're great at playing with him and just really kind of getting into his world. So he had a lovely weekend. Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. So glad you had a good time. So this episode, I thought we could talk about the things that the boys are doing, which we thought they would never do, which will hopefully give reassurance to many of you listening. And also the things that they do that are difficult to manage, because I think that's equally as important to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. And please remember to message us on Instagram. We love getting your messages. So message us on love_needs-no-words. Any points that you want us to discuss or you think would be helpful. And if you want to give us any of your own tips or advice, please feel free. We are totally open to hearing those. So yeah, please message us.
Yes, please do. So I can start with a few things that I've picked up on. So I mentioned on the first podcast that Alex now follows direction. So he's now 4.5, and even a year ago, he wouldn't have been able to get undressed, get his shoes on, pick something up when asked. It's like his understanding has grown really rapidly, actually. He swims more confidently now, which after struggling, even getting him in the water at 18 months, that's massive for us. Things like having his hair brushed, teeth brushed, nails cut, he's a lot more tolerable now and definitely engages with us like more in activities. For example, we can take him to places like trampolining, soft play. The first time anywhere new is still overwhelming for him. So lots of vocal stimming and wiggling of the fingers. But once he's been somewhere once, he recognises where we're going, which absolutely blows my mind how he's able to remember directions. I struggle going anywhere without a sat nav. Is Max the same?
He does remember directions and he does know where we're going. He'll kind of recognise, but I do know where you're coming from because Max has an incredible kind of memory for pictures. So yeah, for him, it's like puzzles. He only has to do it once and he's memorised the picture. He won't need the box or a picture to be able to do the puzzle. He just seems to remember it. It's incredible.
That's incredible. I've seen him doing a puzzle. It's literally mind blown. We also venture to places like Legoland and have a really great day now with the Q Pass, of course, and that's really worth applying for, actually. It's a Merlin Pass, which you can get online because Alex struggles queuing, so it works perfectly because you just join like a fast track queue via an app. And we were able to go on rides multiple of times, which is really good. Have you ventured there?
No, I was going to say, do you need something particularly to get the Merlin Pass online?
Yeah, so you fill out an application online and they just need your DLA form, disability allowance form, or a diagnosis. So that's all you need to send. I think maybe a picture of them as well. Yes, and a picture so they can print out your card.
Okay.
But yeah, once you've done that, you just turn up, sign up to their app online, and they're really helpful as well when you get there, because I wasn't really sure of what I was doing at first. And then we went on rides multiple times, and also they're quite particular about which ones they want to go on. It's just great.
Yeah, I know. Max doesn't. He doesn't always understand the concept of a queue either. He'll quite happily just walk straight to the front of the queue.
Yes, Alex is the same. You're like, sorry about that.
Oh, come back.
Alex, actually, the queue is obviously small because of the queue jump, but he literally pushed his way through and just went and sat on one of
I think it's quite bold.
It was bold, right? Very. Oh, but yeah, I'm just so proud of him because it must be so difficult for them to navigate like everything in life, especially new places we take them to. So, like we discussed last episode, just lots of talking about what we're going to be doing. This morning, for example, he went trampolining with John, and it was just, oh, you're going trampolining this morning? You love trampolining. And I looked at him and he was sort of jumping up and down. I was like, he definitely knows he's going trampolining. And he's been very mummy recently. And we talked about whether that was because of, going to school and things like that. But he went straight out to the car with John, didn't look back. And I just thought, sometimes I just feel like it's not going in, but it obviously is. You sort of think it's not falling on deaf ears. He's definitely taking it all in. So, and it was really lovely actually, because I know John can struggle at times because, I do feel for him in that he's obviously was so excited to have a son, and there's so many amazing things that Alex is doing, but he does feel the pinch when we're out and we're with other friends and, their sons are sort of spent like really enjoying that one-to-one connection with them, whether that's riding a bike or scootering and John loves skateboarding. So obviously he was like, oh, my son's going to be a skateboarder. And so there's that disconnect, which I know he finds really hard sometimes. But he came back this morning and he said, I feel so lucky to be bringing up such a unique person. Not a lot of people get the chance to do that. And I just thought, what a lovely thing to say. Yeah. And I just teared up because I was like, I said to him, I really feel for you because this isn't easy.
No, absolutely.
And are there sort of things that Max is doing that he wasn't doing before or that surprised you?
Matt and I have been having this conversation a lot recently, obviously because he's going to school and such like. And it was literally kind of a year ago that Max went through a huge amount of change in a very short period. So he got a sibling, we moved house, he moved nurseries. So it's kind of almost like pre that time and then post that time in his life, really, when I think about it. I think, to be fair, the last year has been quite a lot of learning for us as well, because we pretty much found out from nursery that Max was likely to be neurodivergent. He's on the pathway at the moment for an autism assessment. So we found that out almost probably a year ago. And it's almost like, I think because we didn't know that was necessarily what it was, I don't think we necessarily picked up on certain things. So much of our focus was kind of around his verbal communication, and his speech has continued to come. And I suppose in honour of thinking about, successes for him over the last year, he comes out with some absolutely hilarious things that has us in stitches. Honestly, I mean, I can recall some stories. So yeah, I mean, that was for us a situation that we couldn't necessarily see ourselves in, because his speech was delayed, and yeah, he didn't sing songs. So I realised he'd never sang a nursery rhyme or happy birthday. And
yeah,
when he was having previous birthdays, some of his friends would send little videos of them singing happy birthday to him, and I thought, that is so lovely, but also really recognised that wasn't something that he would be able to do. And he's just, I would say, in the last sort of 2 months started to sing a little bit of songs, which is really lovely.
Oh God, I'd be an absolute mess.
Yeah, it's really, really sweet. So he'll sing like little snippets of things, and that's really, really lovely. And actually a few things that I've noted that have been sort of massive things that have surprised me as well that he wasn't doing was, so a couple of weekends ago his cousin came to stay, and they love each other a lot, but they also do make each other extremely overexcited, especially Max. And this was the first time that I've ever seen the two of them play together and be in each other's space without me or someone else having to be basically man-marking him the whole time. I was still anxious, but I felt like I could give him a bit more space, and that was a really new feeling. So I'm hoping that continues.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was massive. Yeah. Actually asked Matt what was the biggest thing for him over the last year, and he said that Max has learnt to catch a ball, and I'd actually forgotten about that.
Yeah.
For him, that was massive, and yeah, so Max has learnt to catch a ball in the last, I think, the last couple of months. We're very proud of him. So, what are the sort of parts of Alex's autism that you find challenging?
I mean, minimal speech has to be top of the list. We have a lot of babbling now of the same sounds, but he says a handful of words. So mama, dada, I did it, and a couple of other words. And funnily enough, today, when we were on the swing, he was saying faster.
Was he?
Yeah. And then he said down.
Wow.
And it's like we have to really tune in. He is trying his hardest, bless him, to say words, but like I said last time, the longing to hear him speak, just have a conversation with us is definitely top of the list. And I think using PEC cards has really helped us with that link. So he's really confident now with his book, handing you snack card or iPad card or whatever it is, and he still leads us everywhere. So, that's his form of communication. So that's helpful because, some people don't even have that. And that must be really difficult. Yeah, I guess that's a daily battle for both of us, really, especially listening to Isabel saying words now and repeating my words as if it's instinctive. And it's wonderful in so many ways, as it's reassuring and lovely to hear her voice, but it's tinted with sadness that she's further along than Alex and she's only 14 months. I mean, I talked about it in a previous episode and I still do it now. I go on an autism page on Facebook, I type in start talking, and I probably do it like once a week. And I'll do a tally on my phone of when people said their child starts talking, and it's making me feel emotional thinking about it because it's so sad. But it's the longing to hear him talk. It's just, yeah, it really gets to me, and I put a brave face on it all the time. And I know John finds it harder than me, and he actually just really struggles to discuss it. And I keep saying how important it is to talk about it. So he is getting better, but it is really, really hard. And like today, when you can hear the words just slightly, it's amazing. And like I said, a lot of people don't even have that.
Yeah, so I can definitely relate to that in some level because Max didn't speak in sort of typical timescales, and that was difficult. And I was desperate. I remember being so desperate to hear the word mummy.
Yeah,
that was what I just wanted to hear, and I remember it so vividly. We were just sat in the car, just me and him, and I was doing exactly like you were saying, kind of you're doing with Isabel at the moment, and just saying words to him and seeing if he'd kind of repeat them back to me. And I said mummy, and he said it. And but yeah, I can relate to that. And we probably will find, I guess, with our children being totally different children, aren't they? And
yeah.
Siblings are like this, that they will just be very, very different, and we'll have to celebrate the strength that Alex has and the strength that Isabel has, and that they're going to be different. Just touching back on what you were talking about in terms of Alex, and one of the hardest things being that around his communication and just being really desperate to hear him talk. How's that made you feel as a parent? Because I know for me, I felt really like I was comparing all the time to other children, which you're told all the time not to do, certainly in the early days. And I felt like I was really doing something wrong as a parent, and I now know that I wasn't, but I was really made to feel like that as well, because whenever I raised it with healthcare professionals, the health visitor, the GP, I was just really dismissed. I was put on numerous parenting courses, the amount of parenting courses that I've been put on, told to go to, and some of them I do really understand, they were just trying to help, but really I felt like I was just being dismissed, that no one was really taking me seriously. I was literally told to turn the television off and make sure that there was no background noise in the house, and to talk to him sort of all the time. And I thought, what in my mind I was thinking, but what do you think I'm doing?
I think so many people have heard that line and it's infuriating. There's nothing worse than hearing those comments
that you're potentially doing something wrong.
Yes.
You already feel.
Oh my
You're
God.
feeling
Yeah.
all the emotions. You're scared. Why isn't this happening? Why are they not talking? What's going? Is there something more to it? Which you do start to question those things when your child's not hitting their milestones in the way that is expected. And I know there's kind of leniency around that, and all children develop in their own ways. And I totally understood that, but my gut feeling was that something wasn't quite typical. Something just wasn't sitting right with me. And that's one thing that I would say to anybody listening who might be thinking, something just doesn't feel quite right to me. Trust your instinct. I think as a parent, when something's not quite as it feels it should be.
Yeah, mother.
I just think you just know.
I suppose now I've come to a point where I find it, so it says crying, but I do find it easier to cope with, where before I would actually avoid going out with friends with kids the same age because I'd find it too difficult. It was too painful. And watching the comparison, I'd get in the car on the way home and I'd just burst into tears.
I can definitely empathise with you about the getting in the car and just sobbing.
Yeah,
not necessarily with speech, but I've had situations where I've been with with friends and had to deal with situations where soft play situations or place groups was actually the hardest. That's where I can really relate to you with just walking home from a play group where a situation's happened and just sobbing the whole way home and thinking, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't have the tools to be able to deal with this. And I know that I'm not getting it right, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And
not knowing what to do.
Yeah. And not knowing where to turn to get that support or to know what to do. And I just felt really lonely in that situation. And even Matt and I really, really struggled to kind of be on the same page, I think, at that point. Yes, I remember with play schemes, me saying, it's too overwhelming for him. I'm putting him in a situation where he's biting or he's pushing or he's just wanting to leave immediately. He can't engage with anything. Something was telling me that I just needed to not put him in that situation anymore. And Matt found that really hard because he didn't want Max not to be given the opportunities that every other child was having. And I totally get it. I totally understand where he was coming from because I was feeling that too. But I guess being the person that was taking him and seeing the consequences, I just felt the only thing I could do in that moment was just to take him away from that situation. Yeah. I don't know whether that was the right thing, but just feeling just totally ill-equipped to be able to deal with this.
Well, it's also
didn't have the tools.
No, and it's also the whole fitting in thing again. Everybody else
wanted to.
Of course you do. And the thing is, like, none of my friends were going through the same thing. When he was little, I didn't know you then. And it was like I felt like I felt so lonely. Like, I really did feel lonely. And a couple of things that sprung to mind when you were saying that was, I remember booking a soft play for John to take him to, and he'd come home and I'm like, how was it? And he just ran around the tables, Amy, and he's just trying to get things off the table, like other people's tables. And a lot of the time, he ran over to a lady with blonde hair and wanted to sit on her lap. So that was really awkward for me. I was like, I always thought you were trying to pull. So, it is funny, but at the same time, I know, right? using Alex. I'm like, yeah, right, yeah, okay. But that it was hard for him, and he was like, stop booking it. And I was like, but I want him to go and do something. He's like, yes, but it's like he's not getting anything out of it. So why am I taking him there? So that was really hard. And then I went to a little church group with Alex, and I thought, okay, this is probably going to be quite good because the hall's small, all that sort of thing. Anyway, there was 4 mums in there with little girls on their laps that were sitting really nicely. And behind the teacher, there was loads of toys, including a bubble machine. And at this point, he was obsessed with bubbles. So he just made a beeline for the bubbles. And at first she sort of said, could we sit down? So I sort of thought, why would you put a load of toys behind you? But also the bubble machine is on, so it's obviously going to, catch his attention. Anyway, she said again, oh, are we going to sit down? So I thought, so I got up and I got him and I put him on my lap. And he just got up again. I remember looking around and one mum tutted, and then I just wanted the ground to just swallow me up. And I just thought, oh, why have I done this? This is just awful. And then I just switched to, I'm just going to get him out of here. Anyway, he got up for like the 4th time. And I'm also like trying to pull him back, which obviously is never going to work. And she said, Mum, we sit down first and we sing songs, and then we pass the toys round and they can play with them. And I just looked at her and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. And I got up and walked out. And I sent an email to say, I just felt so uncomfortable and I was made to it. Not one mum got up and said, are you okay? Or please don't leave. And I was sobbing all the way home, when you can't breathe. And I walked back in and John was like, oh, Ames. And I was like, oh, it was just awful. It's just awful. I don't want to go to anything like that again. And I just think sometimes it's just not worth it. It's like, just do things that you know that they're going to get something out of. Don't feel like you've got to do all of these things because everybody else is doing them. It's fine that they're not doing them. And yeah, I didn't want to ever put myself in that position again because it was so uncomfortable.
I know with playgroups, we did have some success sometimes. Max generally was okay when he kind of, like, he used to go to one with my mum and dad and with Matt when I was back at work after maternity leave, and he really, really liked that one because it was just, he could just play and he could do his own thing and he could skip between whatever it was that he wanted to do. He used to love pushing the pram, the little doll's pram. He used to love pushing that around and kind of ramming it really into walls. But he used to enjoy doing that, and he used to find things that would interest him, and he might spend a long time doing that, but he enjoyed it. And my parents and Matt were great at kind of spending time with him and just giving him the time that he needed to really enjoy it. But other play groups where, like you say, especially ones where it would be story time at the end, that would be just near on impossible for us. Yeah, it was just really, really hard. I remember just shoveling snacks into him to try and get him to sit down.
Yeah, anything to just get him.
Literally, I'd bring so many snacks.
Which again, why should we feel like we have to do that? What we do.
I know, and looking back, he was so young as well, and you can see why the play groups and such like are so underrepresented by or underattended by mums of children who have any kind of special educational needs, because they're just, if we felt like we couldn't go, then there's going to be so many other mums and dads out there and carers and grandparents who are feeling exactly the same way. And actually, if we all just kind of thought, actually, let's just do it. Let's just give our children the same opportunities to try, to enjoy them. But when they're not inclusive, like you were saying with that play group before, you just don't want to put yourself or your child in that situation.
No,
so nothing changes, and then you end up just feeling really, again, lonely, alone, just on your own.
Yeah, it can be really difficult to find somewhere that that they're going to be accepted and just be allowed to be them, and you're not kind of given the sideways look that the way they're behaving isn't okay. But yeah, going back to things that are challenging. So Alex comes to me for a lot of regulation, which is nice, a lot of cuddles and kisses, but it can get a bit much, especially first thing in the morning. He'll stroll on in, get into bed next to me, and then he likes to pinch my face and rub my face with his. And I read somewhere about them loving like skin to skin. And he does it when he's excited a lot too. He'll come up like gritted teeth and then like rub his face on my face. And, it's lovely, but I do end up feeling a bit like a stress ball. So I wake up feeling like I've had like the worst facial.
You never know, Amy. It might be doing wonderful things.
You never know, being pinched to death.
Yeah.
But But as long as he's happy. But yeah, they can get a bit much, and I bet a lot of people can relate to that. And picking flowers, oh my god, this is his new focus. So anywhere we go, he grabs hold of flowers and pulls them off. Which is great when you're at someone's house and they've spent hours making their garden look lovely, and he makes a beeline for a lovely rose bush that's just bloomed, like pulling them off. Oh god!
You go home with a lovely bouquet of flowers. They have a bold garden.
No, they don't even end up like that. It's their retort. They tears them and they just end up on the floor. And so my dad is like the most amazing gardener, and he's got like tubs and tubs of flowers, and his garden looks amazing. And like Alex is like, yes, when he gets there, kind of. This is so exciting. And he runs and he like grabs them all. And I just look at Dad like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, he's all right. He's having fun, bless him. And I'm like, oh, Dad, you're a ledge. Because, like, again, just letting him do that because he gets so much out of him. And his face, he's just like, like so excited. And there's these like purple ones, like if you remember, but they like pop when you like grab them together. So he loves those. But then his hands are like bright purple. So he comes up to me grinning, and it's like his hands are purple, his face is purple. Then skin to skin. I'm like, oh. But yeah, a lot of redirection with that at the moment. But yeah, even we've recently moved and the garden was full of flowers, and now there's like bold patches where it's just been let loose. I'm like, oh God, I hope she doesn't come back and have a look. But yeah, I wonder if like with the stones obsession, he'll just grow out of this.
You're probably right. It seems like a lot of it is phases, albeit sometimes very long phases.
Yeah.
Redirection seems to go a long way, I think, with a lot of this. And it seems to be tip that's quite often used, like redirecting the behaviour. At the moment, we are dealing with tipping things over and causing damage.
Oh yeah,
loving causing damage. So I thought,
great,
wonderful. Like, I was getting ready the other morning, and I thought, okay, right, his bedroom's opposite our bedroom. Max, go and play in your bedroom for a little bit. I'm just going to get ready, and then I'll come play with you in like 5 minutes. Okay, so off he goes. I'm thinking, wow, I'm onto a winner here. This is wonderful. This hasn't happened before. Oh, I can hear noise, and I think, he's obviously getting a few bits out to play with, maybe a few puzzles. I walked back into the room. Every single drawer and cupboard had been upturned into the middle of the room. It was just in a ginormous pile. And I thought, I don't really know where to go with this.
I don't know where to start.
Do I celebrate the fact that he's, occupied himself
yeah,
a few minutes without me? Or do I just think, what on earth am I going to do? What did I do? I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but I encouraged him to tidy it all up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because there is redirection, but there's also the fact that I do believe that Max does know the difference between right and wrong to a degree, and so I don't want him to feel like trashing my house or our house
or anyone else's house
or anybody else's. But yeah, at the moment, and even at nursery, they've highlighted this as well. They've been saying that he's obviously quite deregulated because he's been tipping boxes of toys out onto the floor, and they have said that he will tidy them up afterwards, which is music to my ears because it's a challenge at home. But boxes of Lego, which is obviously quite difficult because we've got a 1-year-old in the house. She loves to put everything in her mouth. So he got Marble Run for his birthday. The amount of times the marbles have been all over the floor.
Yeah, that's stressful.
Yeah, because I don't want, obviously, his sister to eat them. So yeah, this is currently something that we're going through. So I don't know, your flowers thing sounds really lovely in comparison to trashing his bedroom.
Well, you say that. There's also another one where he likes to open and close doors of anything. So he likes to watch how the mechanics work. Start opening and closing the fridge. He just likes to see how the door opens and closes. It's like the wheels spinning thing, like fascinated about how they work, which, can be really annoying and hard to explain when it's someone's house and he's like opening their fridge and closing the door and opening the dishwasher and closing the dishwasher. And they're like, oh, Alex, no, don't do that. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. He's just got this obsession at the moment. So yeah, a lot of redirection, and you know, he would prefer to do this than play with toys. So like I said in the first episode, just buying anything off Amazon I can think to distract him, but ultimately that is what he gets pleasure out of, and that sensory input is by doing that. So it's kind of like accepting that that's his way of playing, where before I would sort of, you know, and it is annoying, like when you're lying in bed and you keep hearing the drawer opening and closing, you're like, Alex, stop. But he, you know, he's giggling along and he's getting like a sensory input. So you just have to tell yourself, like, he's just playing. Really, it can be quite annoying. But watching things on repeat's another one, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, but he'll just like maybe just watch the first 10 seconds of a song at the beginning, or like chunks of an episode, and be in absolute hysterics about whatever it is. And I noticed the other day that it was like a joke. So he was obviously laughing along with this joke, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. And I was told by his SEN teacher that the reason that they do that is that they obviously like that particular part, or they're learning that chunk of language. So that's all I think now. Otherwise, I would go slightly insane. So I was just like, he's learning, because it's quite intense when they're just watching the same thing over and over. And you know, Alex is Hey Dougie mad. Like, he won't watch anything else. The day he does, we're going to be in shock. Even when he's listening to a nursery rhyme, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a bit of a change. Yeah, the character's been a bit of like part of the family now.
We are currently in our Frozen stage at the moment, so we are watching Frozen over and over again, but only the first start of Frozen, so not the entire film. So we're everything Frozen. So we are watching the film and we are listening to the soundtrack. We're listening to the soundtrack in English and Japanese. We have a Tony Elsa for his Tony box, which was an absolutely wonderful birthday present and really thoughtful. But when I'm listening to it at 6 a.m. in the morning, because he puts it on the Tony box, it's less appealing. Frozen puzzles, the lot. So I get the Hey Dougie thing. But the thing with Max is that he will love that for a short period of time, and then he'll move on to something else.
Right.
And then there'll be something else that he loves, Thomas the Tank Engine or Tractor Ted. Yeah,
I take anything else. But, you know, I mean, it could be worse. Dougie is, you know, it's a nice one. It's all about, you know, there's always a message behind each episode. The characters are really lovely. And there's one he was watching yesterday about sharing, and he's really good at sharing with Isabel. So, you know, it could be worse. It could be
a lot worse.
Yeah,
could be a lot worse.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess the only other thing I can think of is, you know, it could just be taking Alex more time than others. But, you know, again, it can be quite upsetting because it comes so naturally to other children is riding a bike or scooter. It's like he just doesn't have the confidence yet and just won't even engage if we try. You know, we always try. And yeah, I guess it would just be the dream to see him do that. And it's probably something, like I said, he will do in his own time. But we had them both in the garden this weekend, and Isabel was watching John put Alex on it and pushing him round, and he did it for a few seconds and he just wanted to get off, and she obviously wanted to have a go herself, so she got on and she was pushing her foot along the floor, and I just looked at John and I was like, it comes so instinctively to her what she's got to do. Like, John was showing Alex and he just wasn't engaging where she was watching. And it's the same with like waving, clapping, the blowing kisses thing, using cutlery. Where with Alex, like, everything is harder for him to learn and just takes longer for his brain to process it. And I guess he has to be in the right mindset to want to do it.
We had that with scooting. When Max first started scooting, he would walk with the scooter,
right,
just with either foot on either side of the scooter. And he was doing that for quite a while. And then he watched Peppa Pig learn how to scoot, and it was and then he got it after watching that. So for him, it was obviously like he just something needed to make sense to him, because we were showing him and we were kind of trying to guide him, and it wasn't working. And for whatever reason, that really resonated with him. And again, it could have been coincidence. It might have been just that we were doing it for so long with him that it just finally clicked. But yeah, just it seemed like it took something slightly different for him to work out what to do. But riding a bike, no, he can't do that yet. He has got a bike, but even with stabilizers on, he can't quite work out how to move his feet. But like my nephew took to scooting so quickly. Literally put his foot on the scooter and knew what to do.
Yeah.
And he's like that with all sports. It's amazing to watch. Whereas, like I was saying earlier, Max is only just sort of, he's just started catching a ball. So he obviously doesn't find that as naturally easy.
You touched on a few things there, but is there anything else that you kind of find particularly difficult to manage with Max?
I think in the general main, we try and keep like home as calm as possible, and we've recognised not trying to really reduce the amount of demands that are put on him, especially towards the end of the week and sort of over the weekends. And I think having that routine at home has really helped.
Yeah,
for me, and I think for his dad as well, one of the hardest things that we find, and something that's particularly difficult to manage with Max, is that Max has quite big emotions, and so when meltdowns happen, they really happen. And it's really, really hard to see. It's really difficult to see your child so upset and just emotionally and physically totally out of control, and knowing that there's really nothing as a parent that you can do to help at all, and just kind of having to be there and knowing that whatever you say is not going to make a difference, really, or maybe not in that moment. In overall, you hope that just being with them is the right thing to do. But yeah, just knowing that you have no power to be able to take that away from them, that we find really, really difficult. And he had one of those last week, and it never gets any easier for me personally. Just watching him go through it, and it's time. It just takes time, and it can take anything up to an hour for him to work through that. So that's I think something that we find particularly difficult. Often because the triggers for that are things that are harder for us to be able to control too, that are kind of inevitable, like that are changes that are away from our home environment, like starting school or a change at nursery. It's harder for us to be able to control that, I guess. So yeah. But I got a call from nursery earlier to say Max might be a little dysregulated when he gets home, because his then teacher, so just a heads up for you because they've got the same teacher, is wearing a different coloured top, because our amazing SEN teacher is doing another role within the nursery as well at the moment, so she's wearing a different coloured top, and totally threw Max apparently today. So
bless him.
Yeah, but it's those kinds of things that will just kind of build up, and then it all just gets too much for him.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're still learning, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're still learning what
very much so.
We're still learning the triggers. We're still learning how to best manage it. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes forget he is only 4 still.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's so much expectation on children. And when we're talking about even classes and soft play, you know, we're talking about when they were 2 and 3, and our expectation and what we felt was socially acceptable, what they should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, they're still like tiny, already with, you know, you need to sit still.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes I have to remind myself he's still so little.
You know, one of the reasons why Max has these meltdowns is because he isn't able to, at this moment in time, be able to deal with those emotions and make head or tail of them. But he is only 4 as well, so that's hard for adults, let alone a child, and then when you add kind of SEN on top of that, so yeah, it is really understandable, but it's still hard as a parent to see your child, just not in a happy place, really.
Yeah, and going back to what we were saying, you know, remembering all the things that they are doing, not the things that they're not doing.
Yeah. Celebrating them for who they are.
Exactly. So you're away next week, aren't you? So yeah, where are you going?
We are going to the Peak District.
Nice.
Fingers crossed for some good weather.
Yes, fingers crossed. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening this week. We've got a guest on next week, haven't we?
Yes, we do. So more information to come on our Instagram page, so keep an eye on that, and please do add us. Again, as we said, it's love_needs no words.
Thank you for listening.
Have a great week. Bye.
Bye.